Finding an activity to do with your child that challenges and pushes you both to be better, that builds character, and is something you can learn together is a fantastic thing.
At Okami Kai Martial Arts and Fitness, we thrive on positive feedback from our students, so you can just imagine how happy we were to hear from Jessica and her daughters as they gave their thoughts about our classes.
Classes are always fun, and I always learn something new.
Fun and learning, all while getting out and getting active. That's one of our goals, and according to these amazing ladies, we're doing our job and doing it well.
I see the excitement and the joy that they have to go to class to learn and improve.
Contact us today to find out what everyone is talking about. Our family can't wait to meet your family.
Okami Kai is my favorite place to be.
Okami Kai Martial Arts and Fitness. Check us out at okamikai.com.
Everything is my favorite thing to do in class.
Welcome to the Okami Kai Chronicles. I'm Scott Campsall, and I'm the Chief Instructor at Okami Kai, which is located in Uxbridge, Ontario, Canada. Today, we're going to go deep into your child's brain. Does your child lose it during games? Do they freeze up or get upset during a test or when being corrected? Do you sometimes feel like your kid is Dr. Jekyll in some situations and Mr. Hyde in others? If that's a yes, you're not alone. This happens all the time with every kid. And what we've learned is that there's usually something deeper going on. Not discipline problems, but brain wiring problems. Temporary ones, developmentally normal ones, but real frustrating ones nonetheless. We're drawing today from The Whole Brain Child by Dr. Daniel Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson, a book every parent should read at least once. It's like having a roadmap to your child's brain. And that's a big deal when you're trying to raise someone who is confident, emotionally balanced, and not emotionally disintegrating in the dojo change room because they forgot their water bottle. So whether your child is a wild little white belt or a seasoned teenage brown belt wrestling with perfectionism, this episode will help you understand why they react the way they do, communicate more effectively, respond instead of explode, and most of all, become a better coach in both life and martial arts. So tie your belt, grab a notebook, and let's start unlocking the whole brain. First of all, before we get into this, I have to apologize. It's been a while since I did our last episode. And the reason for that is, well, for one, it's been an incredibly busy summer. Even last week, we did a skills camp for 12 kids who worked really hard. It's the first time I've ever done a skills camp. We have done day camps in the past, but this was the first time that I had decided that I was just going to run a special 2-hour class for 12 kids max. And it was just going to be me. And we were going to focus on things that would make not only their martial arts training better, but also hopefully they could transfer those skills outside of the dojo as well. And so I won't get into too many details about what got covered. It's all on our socials. But in the end, all I can say is these kids worked really hard and they deserve a lot of accolades from their parents and from the rest of us because they were very well behaved. They were really hungry. I think because of the fact that they were so focused and concentrated that they learned a lot. I hope they learned a lot. And I just want to say, I had a great week. It was one of the best teaching experiences I could possibly have. How could you not, as a teacher, enjoy teaching 12 kids who are passionate about what you are also passionate about? It was great. But moving on, we are, in this episode, going to cover a lot of material that is in the book, The Whole Brain Child, by Dr. Daniel Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson. And this, quite frankly, has now become sort of our, I don't want to say Bible, but our guideline for when we are teaching kids. And since Jennifer and I have both had more than a few experiences with our younger students where we rely on these techniques, and I won't say that this was all our idea or that we found this book by ourselves. I have to give credit where it's due. Melody Johnson, who's a fantastic role model for anyone who is trying to teach kids better, particularly martial arts students. She, in more than a few interviews, has talked about this book. And I've never met Melody Johnson, to be honest. We've messaged, we've emailed back and forth. We were supposed to meet in 2020. And there's a thing that I believe Century came up with it, but it's a martial arts super show. And at that time, it was supposed to happen in Las Vegas. And so we had tickets. We were going to go down there. We were looking forward to it. And then COVID happened and the whole event got canceled, which was really disappointing because I was excited because we were going to network with other martial artists. Obviously, we know a bunch of martial art instructors through World Kabuto. And there's a Capital Conquest event that they host every year in Gatineau, which is just outside of Ottawa. And so obviously we've connected with a lot of martial arts instructors through that event and through that organization. So I was excited. We were going to go down. We were going to meet new instructors. Friends of mine had said, oh, it was really good. And a lot of the celebrities in martial arts are known to go there. And I think you'll have a really good time. And so quite frankly, I don't know who else goes. I just know I really wanted to connect with Melody and it never happened. So here we are, 2025. Maybe I will try to get to one of her events. But in the end, she also did an interview on something called Punch, Kick, Choke, Chat, which is a podcast that Sensei Jennifer and I were also interviewed on. So we're really close in the business, and as far as, how should I say it, ships in the night. We pass like ships in the night, but in the end, we've never physically met. But I still can't say enough good things about her. I love her mindset. I love how she teaches. I love her hunger and her passion for teaching kids. And so it's become a little infectious over here. And that's one of the reasons why we will quite honestly stand up and say, we don't want to be a martial arts school that just teaches kids how to punch and kick. We want to be what she calls a child development center that uses martial arts as a tool. We are not a skills school in the sense that we have not branded ourselves as such. We are a bronze member of her program. And that's mainly because we wanted to revitalize our Little Dragons program. And so we have used some of her drills and some of her lesson plans to help make our Little Dragons classes better. But in the end, I think what we do is we float sort of in between a skills school, which she will confess is not a pure martial arts school, but then we also go a little bit traditional. So in other words, we are using neuroscience and skills ideas, or the principles, I guess we should say, to teach traditional martial arts. And so, like I said, when we get into this book, this Whole Brain Child, a lot of the fundamentals and the foundations that are stated in this book are tools that we use. So for example, Dr. Siegel introduces one of the most important concepts right out of the gate, and that is that your child's brain isn't just one simple machine. It's a multi-level, ever-developing system. And so to simplify it, he breaks it into two main parts. There's the upstairs brain and the downstairs brain. The downstairs brain is the primal part of the brain. It's responsible for automatic survival-based functions, think like heart rate, breathing, blinking, but most importantly, the fight, flight, or freeze response. It also holds raw emotions like anger and fear. So imagine your kid during sparring and a glove gets too close to their face and suddenly they're crying, flailing, or frozen like a deer in the headlights. That's not necessarily misbehavior. That's the downstairs brain saying, hey, danger, defend, you're in trouble. And it's reactive, it's impulsive, and here's the kicker, it's built in and hard to override. Well, meanwhile, the upstairs brain, this is the logical, rational, problem-solving part of the brain. It's where planning, emotional regulation, empathy, and decision-making live. And this is what allows your child to think before acting and to learn from mistakes and to calm themselves down. But here's an interesting reality that the upstairs brain is under construction until your child's mid-20s. So around 24 or 25, that's when it's fully developed. So let's say we've done this drill occasionally where we hold balloons up to a pad and we get the kids to punch them or kick them and see if they can break. And so let's say your 7-year-old can't explain why when they punched the balloon, it didn't break. So all of a sudden now they burst into tears. It's not necessarily that they're being ridiculous. It's because their brain is still wiring itself to handle frustration and stress. And so with a martial arts connection, every time your child trains, they're practicing more than technique. They're learning how to operate from their upstairs brain while their downstairs brain is screaming. And that's emotional regulation. That's mental toughness. And it doesn't happen overnight. So if your child is melting down, freezing, or lashing out, don't try to talk them out of it right away. If their downstairs brain is taking over, logic won't land. First, connect emotionally. Then once they're calm, reason with them. The brain literally can't learn if it feels unsafe. There's this practical strategy also in the book called Name It to Tame It that I really like. And so for that, we have to basically split now your brain into left and right hemispheres. And the left hemisphere of the brain, it lives in logic and facts and language and sequences, while the right hemisphere is emotional, sensory, and visual. It feels more than it thinks. So now picture your child has had a hard day. They come into the dojo and mess up during basics. Tears start. They can't explain what's wrong. They just fall apart. That's the right brain taking the wheel. So the name it to tame it strategy means helping your child make sense of their feelings using language when you guide them to tell the story of what happened. Even in simple terms, the left brain starts engaging, which calms the emotional flood. So instead of saying something like, "You're fine, stop crying," try, "I can see you're upset. Did something happen at school today? Or are you feeling frustrated about how practice went?" And even if they can't respond right away, you're sending a message that your feelings are valid. Let's explore them together. And so an example, and I won't name a name of a student, but we had one boy who had a tough time during a kata. He couldn't remember it. And he started basically shutting down. And so what I did to get him on the floor was I went over to him. I said, "Are you feeling embarrassed?" And I basically tried to connect with him so that I could understand what he was thinking. And basically we were all in a group, but I just said, "Do you think everybody was watching you?" Because nobody was watching you. They're all focusing on their own kata. But once the emotion was named and the child could breathe again, he was able to start stitching together coherence instead of chaos. And this is something that you could practice at home too, because after a meltdown, you could always circle back and say, "Hey, earlier you seemed really mad. What do you think was going on there?" And get them in the habit of talking through emotions, because it builds emotional literacy, resilience, and upstairs brain strength. Siegel gives another great metaphor in the book, the river of well-being. So picture your child floating down a river in a canoe. On one side of the river is chaos, wild emotions, disorganization, impulsivity. On the other side is rigidity, inflexibility, perfectionism, fear of making big mistakes, or any kind of mistakes. And so the goal is to stay in the river. Mental health and emotional regulation happen when kids can paddle between those extremes and stay in the flow, when they can stay flexible, adaptable, and connected. So we see this in the dojo when a student can't stop moving, interrupting us, or laughing nervously. They're bouncing emotionally and physically. But there's also those times when a student will shut down completely, like in that kata situation. If they don't get something perfect, they freak out over being corrected or freeze when sparring gets unpredictable. Both extremes are hard places to be. The trick isn't to punish the chaos or push through the rigidity, it's to guide them back into the flow of the river. So what we try to do is we try to pay attention to when a child is drifting toward either bank and see if they're spiraling with big messy feelings or if they're stuck in a loop of perfectionism or anxiety. And so we bring back that name it to tame it thing. We get them to name it and then normalize it and then gently paddle them back to the center. Because quite frankly, our job isn't to steer them forever. We get your kid till maybe university, maybe, and then we lose them and maybe they come back. But in the end, we know that all things end and the relationship that we're going to have with your child is also going to end. So we're not totally sold on let's helicopter instructor them in. Like, I'm going to steal that term. I don't think I've ever used it before, but we're not going to expect that we can always be there to tie their belt and hold their hand. So that's why we have to get them to name it and figure out how to normalize it and do that all for themselves. And so when we're looking at that river and the name it to tame it strategy, and we go back to that idea of the 4 sections of your brain, the big job is to integrate all 4 sections so that they work and they are connected. So that means the upstairs brain and the downstairs brain are talking to each other and the left and right hemispheres are cooperating. And when we get all of that, we get emotion and logic and we put it all in balance. And that's really important because an integrated brain can handle conflict with fewer meltdowns. It can adapt to stress. It can learn from failure and it can connect with others. And this is one of the reasons why I felt that our responsibility was not just to go and teach how to punch and kick. It was to try to build integration in a child. Because as this child ages, they will end up learning how to control their emotions under stress and build community and teamwork with others. And so each class is a neurological workout. We're not just building strong bodies, we're building strong minds too. And going back to, I did an episode I called Parent Support and basically was talking about how parents can help their child learn more in class and how you can be an assistant in their training. And one of the things I had suggested was maybe asking open-ended questions after class. Saying things like, that class looked really tough, or it looked like you had a lot of fun out there. Even stuff where you go, were you making some mistakes out there? Were you a little embarrassed? Were you a little stressed out? That way they can identify those emotions and they can reflect on their mistakes without shame, but they could also celebrate effort and not just their achievements, because they don't get a belt every class, but they can see when they overcame stress. So let's wrap this up with some real tools you can use. These strategies come straight from the book, but have been dojo tested by us. Number 1, connect and redirect. Don't jump into discipline mode. First, connect with your child emotionally, then redirect the behavior. So an example, I can tell that sparring was frustrating today. Let's take a minute to breathe. Then we'll talk about what happened. Number 2, engage, don't enrage. When your child flips their lid, you don't get to flip yours. Responding calmly prevents escalation. You're the thermostat, not the thermometer. You set the tone. Number 3, use stories to build coherence. Encourage your child to tell the story of what happened, especially after tough moments. It helps them organize their thoughts, regulate emotions, and see cause and effect. Number 4, encourage mindsight. This is Siegel's term for self-awareness. It's like emotional situational awareness. If you can teach your child to recognize their own feelings and triggers, then they can learn from that themselves. They don't need you to do it for them. So you get asked, what do you notice in your body when you start to get mad? And then that way they can see it coming. So let's say that they've got a bit of a temper or they're angry all the time. Maybe we can head this off of the past by asking them, what do you notice in your body when you start to get mad? Then hopefully they can recognize it and then maybe they can calm themselves down before anything does happen, before that meltdown occurs. Number 5, leverage the dojo. Don't underestimate what martial arts is doing for your child's brain. Routine, ritual, effort, discipline, all of it strengthens neural pathways. And you can support that by reinforcing dojo lessons at home. And by all means, if you are trying this stuff out and you have an incident where that all connects, please let us know because we love that kind of stuff. We love it when parents are saying that they are using ideas and principles that we have incorporated in our classes. One of the things that I've also stolen from Melody is a thing called neurobics. And so that game, a lot of our parents will be aware of it when I turn around and say, okay, I want you to run all the way to the other end of the dojo, or I want you to go back to where we started before we did that basic drill. Or another one I've done is, you're going to do a back break fall when I say go. And then I'll say, on your mark and set, gopher. And anybody does a break fall, we sort of joke with them and laugh with them. Or I'll say, on your mark and set, ghost. Or on your mark and set, golf course. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get their brain thinking and rewiring. And I had a mom, oh man, it's got to be over a year ago now, I guess. But she had said she had done the same kind of thing at home. And she said her child was totally glued and they were interacting. And I think it had something to do with him cleaning his room or something. So I love that kind of stuff. If I can help connect a parent with a child, I'm totally in. Because I'm not going to lie to you. As a parent, I will say it's hard. Teaching martial arts is hard too, but parenting is probably harder because you get your kid all the time. We only get your child for maybe half hour, 45 minutes, an hour at the most in a day. But what's really cool is between the two of us, the parent and the martial arts instructor, we're not just helping build just a better martial artist. We're building a more balanced human being. And your child's brain is still under construction. It's noisy, it's messy, but it's also capable of incredible growth, especially when surrounded by adults who get it. So the next time your child melts down, freezes up, or acts out in a class, don't just see a problem, see an opportunity to connect, to name it, to guide them back to that river, and to help them integrate. And if this episode helped you see your child in a new way, please share it. Tell a fellow parent, talk about it with us or any of the other instructors, because raising resilient kids isn't a solo mission. One of the things that I really like about our school right now is that we are more than ever trying to build strength through our community. And so if we can use that community and that understanding of neuroscience, I think that's going to go a long way in making both our school successful, but more importantly, our students successful too. Thanks for listening, and hopefully I will see you in the dojo as we all travel down the river together. This has been a Campsall Broadcasting production. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes when I'm going down the river, I think I've lost my paddle.